Welcome to The Performance Code, the official podcast of PCodeNation.com and the Performance Code community. Tune in each week as top performers and fitness experts share their tactics and strategies to get you on the fast track to achieving maximum results. And now, your host, Justin Schollard.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Justin Schollard, episode number 5 of the Performance Code podcast. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to join me for this episode. So today we're going to talk about growth hormone. So maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. Essentially, it is one of the primary hormones responsible for fat loss, building muscle, having fresh, supple skin, strong hair, nails, eyesight, you name it. A lot of experts say that growth hormone is the fountain of youth. Now, here's what happens. As we're going through adolescence, we tend to be producing a lot of it. Around age 30, I've read numbers that our growth hormone plummets around 60%, and it continues to plummet every year until old age. So ironically, that's when people tend to start grasping at straws, trying to recapture their youth. And unfortunately, a lot of people revert to doing some questionable tactics in order to stimulate growth hormone production, or just flat out inject it into their veins through a syringe, right? Or rub it as cream, you name it. There's a ton of ways these days you can go about getting it other than through our own self-effort and healthy lifestyle practices. So what today's episode is all about, guys, is to just shed some light on how we can produce it not only naturally, but then create a sustainable, healthy approach to its production for the long run. So basically, what are some things that we know stimulate the production of growth hormone? So, when preparing for the show today, I just pulled up a quick Google search. I literally just wrote how to produce more growth hormone. And the first thing that pops up, how to increase HGH in the body naturally. Here are 11 evidence-based ways to increase human growth hormone. Number 1, lose body fat, right? Number 2, fast intermittently. Number 3, try arginine supplementation. We can talk about that later. Number 4, reduce sugar intake. Number 5, don't eat a lot before bedtime. And now there's a really interesting study that I'd like to share about that one. Number 6, take GABA supplements. Number 7, exercise at high intensity. Another interesting study that I'd like to share about that one in particular. And then another supplement called beta-alanine. So basically, what we're seeing here is either supplement it or change your lifestyle behavior in order to support the production of growth hormone naturally. So here's what I tend to believe. I tend to believe that growth hormone, or lack thereof, is a reflection of the balance of your lifestyle, the overall health of your life cycle. Or your lifestyle, sorry. So for example, when we see here lose body fat, well, what does that mean? What are some contributing factors that make us gain excess body fat? Stress. Stress is a big one. People don't realize how much stress factors into not just body fat, but visceral body fat. In fact, the worst kind of body fat. This is the body fat around our organs. It's totally stress related. We see a lot of that in middle management or people with high stress jobs. We see a lot of it in endurance athletes like cyclists, triathlons, marathon runners. The reason is because they're under high levels of stress for a prolonged period of time. So what happens is your body deals with stress by releasing cortisol. Now, one of the many things that cortisol does is it's a stress hormone. Let's just be clear on that. And cortisol, among other things, shuts our metabolism down in order to channel all available energy in the form of usually glucose to our brain so we can think, fight, flight, or freeze our way out of it, right? So in the example of a high-stress job, I've worked personally with a number of high-end executives who eat a pretty decent diet. They actually don't eat too poorly, at least what they tell me. Now, maybe they're full of shit and they eat like crap, but let's just assume, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's just assume that they eat okay. So why are they exercising a couple times a week, eating okay, but still just building body fat. The reason is because cortisol, when it shuts your metabolism down, it breaks muscle tissue down. It turns muscle tissue amino acids into glucose. And what's glucose? That's what happens when we eat sugar, bread, carbohydrates in general. It turns into glucose. So when we're stressed, our bodies turn our muscle mass into glucose, which then raises our blood sugar levels, because glucose can get into our brain. It passes the blood-brain barrier, and it helps us think. So not only are we losing muscle mass, but we're turning that muscle mass quite literally into the very thing that creates more body fat, which is sugar. So that might seem strange. And then what happens, the reason why that suppresses growth hormone is because when we have glucose floating around in our system, our body has to put that glucose somewhere. It does that by releasing insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone that literally takes proteins and glucose and fat and puts it places. It stores it here, puts it there. So when we have a lot of excess glucose floating around in our system, then our body's releasing more insulin to put that glucose somewhere. Growth hormone and insulin have an inverse relationship. So if one's up, the other's down, period, right? So if I'm constantly pumping out insulin, either from overeating or from a high stress job, then growth hormone is suppressed. So that's why when you see lose body fat, that's a big one. Well, that's a general, recommendation. But when we dig a little bit deeper into why that is, it sheds a little bit of light on what's actually happening from a more physiological level of why we're accumulating this body fat. Okay. So there's that. Number 2, guys, fast intermittently. Maybe you've heard of this. Maybe you haven't. Maybe it's completely foreign. Essentially, an intermittent fast is anything 16 hours or more, right? So if I were to, maybe you guys have heard of like the 4-10 diet, or sorry, the 10-4 diet. It's what Hugh Jackman did, I think, towards the last film or two of Wolverine, where he was still eating like 5,000 or 6,000 calories a day, but he just got them in from the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which sounds really hard. I mean, basically, the dude's eating like, 800 calories an hour. It's not easy, right? But he's stuffing his face. And the idea is that you eat all your calories earlier in the day. And what you're doing is you're allowing a larger window of time between meals to take place. So basically from 4 p.m. to 10 a.m., no food is entering his system. His body can process it, cycle out the glucose in his system. And going back to what we were talking about earlier of number 1, where it says lose body fat, the same things at play here. In the absence of glucose and food in our bloodstream, our bodies don't have to produce so much insulin. And when we don't have to produce as much insulin, guess what? Growth hormone rises, right? Because insulin and growth hormone have that inverse relationship. So intermittent fasting essentially is creating the biological state that encourages the production of growth hormone, right? So we just want to keep our blood sugar levels low. And here we go. Number 3, right below that, is reduce sugar intake. We're talking about the same thing here, guys. This is simply just a matter of keeping blood sugar levels low. So insulin, therefore, is low. And then when there's an absence of insulin, there's a rise in growth hormone, period, right? Don't eat before bedtime. Same exact thing, guys. If we go to bed with a bunch of food in our system throughout the night, instead of producing growth hormone and recovering from a workout, repairing our tissues, our body is just producing a ton of insulin to try to put those calories somewhere that we just ate. So super important there. And then number 7, I'm skipping all the supplement ones because I've already covered supplements in a different podcast. So I'm not going to go too deep into that one, but I do want to mention this one. Number 7, exercise at high intensity. So a blog that I published not too long ago is called Machine versus Free Weights. Okay. And this one touches a lot on growth hormone production and lack thereof. The reason I'm bringing this up, number 7 was exercise at high intensity, right? So, what's high intensity? And in my experience, when we train with free weights, barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, just your own body weight for that matter, it tends to encourage a higher level of intensity. That intensity is what stimulates our central nervous system to start producing more testosterone, start producing more growth hormone. So in an interesting study back in 2014 conducted by the Journal of Strength and Conditioning, they basically took 10 healthy men, all say that they were experienced in weightlifting. They put them through a free weight workout with a machine and a machine workout, So, and they were just going to basically test which one had like the greater hormonal response. 10 guys, put them through a machine workout, 10 guys, a few days later, put them through a free weight workout. And the idea is we're just going to see how their bodies respond, what elicits the most hormonal response. So for the machine workout, they chose the leg press. They had each male perform 6 sets of 10 reps, 80% of the 1 rep max. And a few days later, they had the same group of guys do 6 sets of 10 reps at 80% of the 1 rep max. But this time, it was a full depth barbell back squat. And this is, guys, a tough workout. I mean, 80% of your 1 rep max for 6 sets of 10 reps. That's no joke, right? You are working hard. So what's interesting about this study is they placed a catheter in the arms of the subjects, and they were testing their blood hormone levels in the moment as it was happening. So basically, the results were a 25% increase in testosterone while performing the squats over the leg press, and a more surprising 200% increase while performing the squat in a growth hormone while performing the squats over the leg press. So we got a 25% increase in testosterone. We got a 200% increase in growth hormone with the guys that did the back squats over the guys that did the leg press. So what's up with that? Why is it that the same load, so to speak, relative intensity produces such drastic differences from a free weight or a machine weight? Well, the answer, in my opinion at least, and this is just the theory, but I tend to believe that when we sit in an inclined padded bench with safety locks, grip tape for our feet, and we get to load the plates up, unlock it, and then lower it in a leg press, it just doesn't quite have that fight or flight, like warrior spirit grit that stepping into a cold steel cage, putting a cold barbell on your back with no safety locks, no padding, no grip. It's just you and the weight, lowering yourself down at the bottom of your hip fold and then having to drive out of there with all your might. Because if you don't, for all intents and purposes, you might not make it out of there, right? So you have to dig deeper to make that movement happen. Because of that, your brain is going to recognize this stress level in that scenario and produce the hormones that are going to give you that extra jolt to get out of there. That extra jolt is going to equate to a more intense workout, more forced adaptation, greater hormonal response, obviously, and therefore a greater adaptational response. So that's why intensity raises growth hormone levels to that extent. So that's my take on it, guys. And I believe that when you eat well, you go to bed on time, you don't have to necessarily fast intermittently, but I think that a big takeaway from this is to just stop eating your food a little bit earlier in the day. So if you're used to having your last meal around 9 p.m., that's probably too late. Just try bumping it before 7, ideally before 6, and that's going to allow the glucose from your system to cycle out. It's going to allow your insulin levels to reduce, and therefore your body, as you sleep, as it's intended to do, can start to release higher levels of growth hormone that will translate to lower body fat, more muscle mass, and just a better attitude, better looking skin, and just a healthier person in general. When you work out, go for intensity over duration. So sometimes I'll secretly sabotage myself and not schedule like a 90-minute window for a workout, but I'll schedule like a 45-minute workout, because if I know I got an hour and a half, I'm gonna putt around a little bit. It's just human nature. If we will expand to the space that we are provided inevitably, right? You move into a 5,000 square foot house, eventually you're going to fill that thing. You live in a 1,000 square foot apartment, eventually it's going to fill. You schedule 2 hours for a workout. Guess what? Your workouts are going to take 2 hours. You only schedule 45 minutes. You're going to try to get that amount of work done within that period of time, which means more intensity, which means greater levels of growth hormone. So forgive my far-reaching analogy there, but I think we can all see where I was going with it. So the idea, guys, shorten those breaks up, keep it intense, stay focused, eat well, sleep well, train smart, and that's how you're going to win the game on keeping your growth hormone levels nice and high, even if you're like me and on the other side of 30. All right, guys, so that's it for today's episode. I want to remind you that I had that free strength course. I got a free strength course, pcodenation.com/strength. Everything you need to build your own 12-week progressive overload strength and conditioning program. It's got everything from nutrition, sample workouts, how to prepare, what your workout flow should look like. You name it, I got it. Also, guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but I have an academy. So maybe you're a DIY kind of person and you can go in there and do the strength course and you're going to get a lot out of that and you're going to be able to build your own workout. That's fantastic. More power to you. However, maybe you just kind of want it done for you. And I get that, right? Maybe we just don't have time to sit there and figure it all out. We'd rather just be able to open up an app, see the workout for the day, walk through with some video demonstrations, instructions, and you just go to the gym and follow along. I got your back on that too, my friend. So head on over to pcodenation.com/academy and take a look. Take a look at the academy, see if it's for you. It's all delivered through a custom app. Once you're a member of my academy, you're going to have more workouts than you could shake a stick at. It's all based off of like a 4-day-a-week routine. It's like a combination of a split routine. I'm pulling from elements of CrossFit, bodybuilding, and powerlifting to develop the perfect strength and conditioning program to get us that coveted look that we're all going for, as well as just keep us nice and healthy and strong and looking our best. All right, guys. So I will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and check you later.
Thanks so much for listening to The Performance Code, the official podcast of pcodenation.com with your host, Justin Schollard, online at pcodenation.com. We'll catch you next time.